Everybody, and welcome back to Thrasher's Kettle Fabricating, and we're going to be working on the steering again today. This is going to be part 2, and hopefully we'll be able to finish this thing up. So the last time we were here, if you guys want to take a look, we did get the steering column mounted, and just still needs to be shortened, which hopefully that's something we'll get done in this video. We did get the shaft out to the front, made a mount for the for that rod end there to hold the, because there's the extra universal in there, and got all that mocked up. So the next problem is going to be, and I got this kind of set in here so we can see it, the motor mount is now in the way, and you can see the steering shaft hitting here, and this needs to come up about another inch or so. So I'm going to get the camera set up here. Not exactly sure what I'm going to do, but plan is to make a sleeve or something that the shaft can run through, or something. I haven't decided quite what I want to do yet. I'm going to try to mark it and see what we got to do. Probably going to take the shaft off. They are tacked, but there's a little tack right there. But what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and bust that maybe and try to eye it up, get it close, make some marks here so I don't destroy my motor mount, and try to make a nice tasteful modification, make it look right, and the steering do actually work. Dre, what are you doing, man? What's up, dude? All right, as you can see, I got kind of marked this here. My concern is as this starts to come up this way, it's going to obviously change the angle. It's going to move down here. So I'm just going to start with that. I'm going to cut this tack here, like I said, and slide the shaft back and see, kind of eye it up and see where it's going to hit. All right, guys, you see on the last clip there, I kind of got the motor mount off and took the steering out to where it was, and I'm going to try to snake this down in there, and just going to try to, I guess, trim this mount slowly. I have some marks on there I initially put on there. I don't have, wish I had a longer piece of tubing here, but I don't, so I'm gonna have to do the best I can do here. And so notch this thing and just keep trying to fit it. I think so it's gonna end up, most of it's gonna be gone. I'll have to put a piece of tubing back in there or something, but I guess I'll just have to figure out as I go. All right, well, do a little work here off camera, and you can see I got the clearance in there and got a rough cut. And shaft moves, got some good clearance on there. I think that's more than enough. And you can see I had to hack up the mounts that I built really early on here in my YouTube channel. But we didn't really want to hack them up, but I don't, sometimes you got to do that when you're building shit. So got my clearance there, and now I have a rough piece cut here. And if I can do this one here, I'm gonna go ahead and weld this back in here to box that back out and clean everything up and just make it look nice, which I think I can do. I think the strength should be all, definitely back in there where it was. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this, get the camera set up for this one, guys. Like I said, I just did a rough, the rough cut here, get this cleaned up, put this up on camera, and show you the finished product. All right, guys, you saw that last clip there. I got the this final, or this filler piece in there. Probably should have got it a little closer before I put it welded in there, but tacked it in there, and then had to use a die grinder and stuff to get the shape to it. But it's all fit now. I also had to weld up on the edges here a little bit where I hit it with the cutting wheel trying to cut the piece out. So gonna go ahead and get this all welded up, get it back on the car, and show you guys what it looks like. All right, there it is, all done. Bolted back in the car, weight's back on it, and everything's cleaned up, and I think it looks pretty cool. It's pretty crazy how this worked out here. Just looking at this, how the spacing is almost perfect between here and the recess I had to make there. But sometimes it works out like that, sometimes it doesn't. But that time it did. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on here, guys. Gonna move on to welding on the U-joints, I believe, and getting everything kind of together so we can get some to actually steer with the tires on the ground. Then next will be to shorten the column. So that'll take a little bit of work from my buddy, his machinist, but we'll keep rolling here and see how far we get. Okay, so moving forward here with this video, what I wanted to do is when I did the steering, what I did without using the clear steer, my original thought is in pushing the column back about 4 inches or so longer than it was supposed to be. So I'm going to attempt to cut this column down. See, I put 2 marks on here. That's where it was in the car, where it ended up and where it was supposed to be. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to remove this collar. There's some kind of bearing here. Attempt to pop this out of here, and then I'm going to shorten this shaft. Now I did a little research today on Google. Doesn't have a buddy of mine machine this, but I'd rather just get this done tonight. So I did a little research, and even I did, it says you can do this with a grinder, and they give you a little template to lay out on here. So seems a little ghetto to try to do that, but that's kind of what this place does. So I'm gonna give that a shot and get this shortened up and put that up on the video. All right, so I saw I got that pull apart. As simple as pulling this collar off and doing that. So I'm gonna see if I can pop this bearing out of here. I don't see anything holding it in. Just as I can sure I want to do that, I think just stick something down there and knock it out. So let me see. We do have another one up here, up top there, which makes sense. Of course, you'd have two. So I'm gonna go ahead and figure that out for you guys, and then we'll cut this down. All right, guys, you can see I got the column cut down. The outer part of the column there, pretty simple. I just used my Harbor Freight tubing cutter there. And it took me a while because it's stainless to get through it, but once I put a little WD-40 in there, started to roll. Should have probably started with that first, but did that, and yeah, I wrote cut right through there, put the bearing back in. That was simple enough. Now we're gonna be onto the shaft here, and you probably saw me in the video there using my tubing, the same tubing cutter, and obviously I'm not gonna cut through a 3/4 inch solid bar, but what I'll do a lot of times is you take that, roll around there a couple times, and you can see leaves you a nice line there to cut. So I'm just gonna cut that with my cut-off tool now, but this just gives me like a line to kind of follow. So cut that off, give me fairly straight, and then I'll get set up, and I got an idea how I'm gonna do this, create this little double D piece here. All right, so my thinking here, guys, is I'm going to take the piece of shaft I cut off here. I'm just going to set it right on top of here. And I am going to scribe the lines on there. Shit, wrong scribe. Scribe the lines on here. Line everything up. I know, not very scientific here. I guess it's the same as the paper template that they recommended. All right, if we can see that in the video there, but I got 2 lines on there. I'm gonna take and come down here. I believe this is 1 inch deep. Put another, use probably my tubing cutter there again. Put a slight mark around there, and then it's gonna take my cutoff wheel here and just work that in, cut that down, and clean it up until the U-joint fits on. All right, there's a column, shortened down 4 inches, and seemed to work okay. Making the double D there, which made it a little bit tighter for my liking. It is a little loose, but it's got the set screw in there with the lock nut. So, I mean, it's tight. It's not going anywhere. But like I said, just being OCD on stuff. So there it is, shortened. It didn't take me very long to do it. I'm gonna get it back in the car, and I'm going to next move on to getting these all welded up, the U-joints, and that should wrap up the steering. All right, so we saw in that last clip there, I got the steering column shortened up 4 inches, like I said, and mounted it back in the car. And I started to, I actually had a slight detour. I had the car in the Cleveland Autorama as a project car, so I had to just tack everything together so the car would turn. And what I did know, it did have some slight bind in things, and I did notice that it was moving here a little bit when I was trying to turn. I don't think this is a tight enough fit on that column drop that I made. So what I ended up doing here, and these are obviously really rough, is I added, with the Speedway, ordered another one of these clamps, and I made a very rough bracket here, so I can have double mounting here. Just because the column is so short, I wanted to make sure it really grabbed when I shortened the column up from the firewall. It just seems to want to move around a little bit. So just like I said, me probably being OCD and overbuilding stuff. So I did add these off camera, and I did change my angles a little bit to get no bind. And you can see it's nice and smooth. And these are tacked except for that one down there. So gonna get this piece out here for you guys. I'm gonna clean this up, weld this on camera, probably just fast forward through everything, show you how I do it, and make it look pretty. And then I will go ahead and bolt that back in and get the U-joints tacked and welded for you guys, and then finish up this video. All right, so there's a piece, as you guys saw me weld that up, and come up pretty good. And I say my welds are not always they're not rolled dimes, but pretty happy with them. You can see it on there, but definitely going to do what it needs to do. I'm going to get it back in the car now, and I'm going to show you guys that, and we're going to move on to the universals, get those finished welded, and then that's it for the steering. So this back in there, show you guys what it looks like. All right, so we're finally at the point welding the U-joints on here. Just started a little bit off camera, and I'm just going real slow here. Read online, some guys like to tear them apart, take the U-joints out so they don't get too hot, but I've just been welding about a ½ inch at a time and flipping back and forth. Also, to let them cool down, what I've done is, because this is steering and I want to make sure it's overkilled, is I started drilling a hole here. Which I'll also weld in, do a spot weld there to hold them in there. So while they're cooling down, I go to the drill press, I drill it, and then I'll weld these all together slowly. You can see I got one more connection to make here, but I did put a line on there earlier this morning, and I can be able to slide the U-joint on there. One other thing I should probably note is they do recommend, different things online, but from what I've read, the most part is they do want them phased like a drive shaft. with the Borgeson's website, and they said that they helps with binding or something. Not quite sure how, but I figured might as well keep with that. So you can see these are phased, and I'll also phase when I weld this one on, phase this one the same way to make sure it works like it's supposed to. So so I'll go ahead and do this real quick for you guys, and that will wrap up this part of the steering. I'm not sure if it's going to be on part 2 or 3 because this is one of the last things I have to do is weld this. So we'll get this up on a video in one or the other. I do have a ton of footage from this stuff. So let me get this set up, and we'll get this video wrapped up. One thing I want to note here, guys, is did some reading online. I forgot to do this when I first started. Was that you should hook the ground right to the piece, so the current is not flowing through the U-joint. So you can see how right on this, from going forward, all the welding I do on the steering shaft will have the ground hooked there. So just wanted to note that, and so just didn't seem to cause any issues or anything like that. But it's steering, so you want to be as careful as you can. Okay, so like I said, I was going to show the piece in the car here, and you can see, it's, nice, it mounts nice and solid, and the wheel, you go this way, there's completely no movement. The issue is, I noticed once I get this thing in here, I can show this, is it is flexing. It's hard to see, but it is flexing in the dash here. First thought was to put a couple more screws to hold the dash, which I will do probably, but I don't think that's going to be enough. So I'm going to build a structure, another structure inside that goes to this dash rail here. So what I'm going to do is do a little off-camera work here. I'm going to tack a bar in there and check it and see, if that creates, helps fix that flexing problem. There we go. You can see it. It's hard to hold the camera and do it, but I will get that tacked in there and check that out, and then I've got a feeling I'm going to move on to making some kind of structure to hold this. If it, it could be a bar across here, which is one idea my buddy had, and which is simple, but I don't know if I really want to have a bar in here because it's going to be kind of in the way of everything when I'm trying to wire and do all this I need to do. So it's definitely an option. It would be a simple way to fix this. I think that I do want to go to the dash rail up here just to keep a nice simple bracket. So I'm going to go ahead and tack a piece in there, and I'm going to see if that fixes that issue, which I feel it will, and then I can get the camera set up and do on camera building the structure how I want to tie into the dash rail. All right, well, I'm going to wrap this video up. I got a ton of footage. Actually, the steering is done at this point, but it was a ton of work getting this thing, where I wanted it to be, and making all the stuff on the dash, make everything fit. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this up, call this steering part 2, and I will go back on to steering part 3. Like I said, the steering is done, but I wanted to go ahead and lay this out for you guys. So like I said, I got tons of footage here I need to edit, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this one off, move on to the next one. So with that, just want to say thanks for watching Thrasher Skittle Fab, and we will see you next time, guys.